Welcome to Made in Alpharetta, the only podcast dedicated to showcasing what makes Alpharetta so awesome. Today's show is brought to you by the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm your host, Kathleen Sturgeon. And as someone who got into beer drinking just this year, I'm a little ashamed to say that. I'm really excited for today's show to highlight my hometown brewery, Jekyll Brewing. Be sure to listen for the secret word during the episode to enter to win some merchandise from Jekyll. And joining me in the studio is none other than Michael Lundmark of Jekyll Brewing. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on. This is exciting. So Can you kind of give me and I'm sure you've given this spiel multiple times, but can you start from the beginning? How did Jekyll get started? Where did the idea come from? All of that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So my family, I'm a family man, a father with 3 kids and working in corporate America. Was kind of tired of the whole corporate scene, doing business development for very large companies and decided I wanted to do business development for me. My wife and I were sitting in church and dropping our check in the basket and didn't feel like we were really giving everything to the community that we could. So we decided we wanted to create a brand that we could be more community oriented and give back to the special causes that were in our hearts at a much bigger level than we'd be able to just writing a check in the church basket. So that's how the concept started. So then I was a home brewer, and it was, the beer scene is coming on. The timing seemed right. All the key points from a business development standpoint seemed to line up correctly for us. So we just needed to come up with a brand and then the right community, which is our community here in Alpharetta. Alpharetta suited us perfectly because of the number of Fortune 500 companies that are here, because we really wanted to build this brand that had giving power, but really to present ourselves as more of a leader to draw in the rest of the corporate community to make that much bigger of a difference for the initiatives that were important to us. I knew when I started that my homebrew wasn't going to be the quality of beer that I'd be able to bring to market. So I needed a business partner that made much better beer than I did. So I came together with Alpharetta resident Josh Rachel, who's my business partner and our brewmaster. Makes the best beer I've ever had. And it's been a marriage made in heaven ever since. So coming in on the branding side, trying to figure out the branding, do we just name ourselves after Alpharetta? How do we do that? Well, I'm a big history buff. And I love U.S. history, and particularly colonial history. And I'm also a damn Yankee, right? So born up north and transplanted into Georgia in 2004. Studying Georgia history, I learned that the first brewery in all of the Deep South was built on Jekyll Island in 1734. So I thought, man, what a great thing for a damn Yankee to do, to teach Southerners about the history of beer in the Deep South. Mm-hmm. So we built our brand around the first brewery in the Deep South, which was on Jekyll Island in 1734. And it's really interesting. Beer in 1734 was really hydration, right? You didn't drink the water because you got sick if you drank the water. And no one understood why. Louis Pasteur hadn't discovered pasteurization until 1853. So we're almost 80 years prior to that. But everyone knew if they made beer that, and it was 1% or 2% beer, you could feed it to your kids without them getting loopy and hydrate them, and you could keep yourself hydrated. So great storylines, great American history that we can roll in behind our brand and then bring good history knowledge to anybody that's interested in it.
That's awesome. And kind of a side note there, but Josh, your business partner, That's his name, right?
Josh, yes.
Josh, yes. Okay. I said it and I was like, I don't know if I said that right. But he went to West Georgia.
He did.
Did you go to West Georgia by chance?
I didn't.
I did. And so when I was at West Georgia, obviously being from Alpharetta, it was kind of a cool marriage of the two, like my two areas that I'm from. So I've always been very proud to say, oh yeah, Jekyll, it's not only where I'm from, but it's also created by one of the guys who went to my school too. So it's like a cool little mixture of things.
So funny story with that. Knowing I needed to hire a brewmaster, I intended to go out to UC Davis in California, where they have one of the best college-related brewing programs in the country, and recruit a brewmaster out there. And I was about to go out, and my wife, as wives appropriately do, smacked me in the back of my head And she said, "Why are you going all the way out there? There's this young kid that helps you with your homebrew recipes at the brew shop. Why don't you go talk to him?" And that was Josh. So Josh and I got together. He grabbed his wife and we went out to dinner and had a discussion and then moved forward from there. 2 weeks after that dinner, when we agreed to work together, he invited my wife and I up to his house, and we went up. And I had tried Josh's beers already. I knew how great they were. And my wife hadn't, and I lean on her. I've always leaned on her as a strong advisor. We were driving home after dinner, and she had sampled all of Josh's home brews, particularly his IPA, which is our Hop Dang Diggity. And my wife was crying, and men panic when the women they love cry, right?
Naturally.
What did we do? How do we fix it? Is this a support situation, or did I cause this? And I looked over at her while I was driving, and I said, "What are you crying for?" And she in her sobbing tone said, "He makes really great beer."
I've been there. It's not my proudest moment, but I can relate to that one. So did you guys start off with a Kickstarter? Is that?
Yeah, so we had a great idea, and we had no funding. So we had pulled in family and friends to kind of get us started. And then there were all of those aha moments, the things you never planned for along the way that we got hit with. And we were kind of out of family and friends options for money. And we realized, well, Kickstarter was really getting a good roll going then. So we did a Kickstarter program at the time. Really cool too, because one of the rewards, if someone logged into our Kickstarter and decided to help us, we put their name on the wall. So if you come to our production facility on Marconi and come into the tap room to sample a beer, you'll see hundreds of names on the wall, different size names depending on what size donors there were. Yeah, so that helped us through a difficult financial time in the beginning. We were able to raise, I think it was $37,000 in that Kickstart campaign.
Mm-hmm. I checked it before you came here. It's like $50 short of 34 or something.
Right.
Or maybe 40. I might have my numbers wrong, but it's an impressive number with 351 people. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a stressful program to run too.
I'm sure, yeah.
You run it for 30 days and you're only like 10% of the way there. When you get to day 25, it's natural. Everybody comes in at the last minute to help. Mm-hmm. Channel 11 had did a news segment on the Kickstarter program, so it was cool.
That's very cool. I checked it today thinking, people like beer, people like home brewery, that kind of thing, but I wasn't expecting more than 300 people to have backed it. Right. So that's very impressive. Also,
to that point, if you look at the names on the walls and the brewing community in Georgia, there's several breweries founders that's opened before we did, that kicked into our Kickstarter campaign before we were even a brand, right? We were just trying to get started, and other brewers and other founders of breweries in the state were kicking in to help us get started. So that's really indicative of what the brewing scene in Georgia is about. We really support each other well and work well together.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I cover Forsyth County for the newspaper, and I spend a lot of time with Cherry Street. Mm-hmm. And Nick Tanner says that all the time about how everybody, it's not like a competition really, it's more like a community, and that you guys try to back each other up and help each other out rather than, oh, I'm going to beat them today or whatever.
Yeah, we call it cooperation.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, that works very well.
Well, so to elaborate on that a little bit more as well, when I decided I was going to found this brewery, I had reached out to Spike at Terrapin. Spike's one of the co-founders, and he's the brewmaster at Terrapin, and asked him for some advice and some guidance. And the one thing that he said to me that I took away from that, and I quote him on it multiple times a year, he said, the brewing community is 99% jerk-free. He didn't use the word jerk. He used a body part in place of jerk, but he was right. I mean, this community it's so tight. From brewer to brewer to brewer, we'd really do anything for each other. We're a strong team as one.
Yeah, that's great. And so, kind of going more into your process, how do you come up with new flavors? So you said the Hop Dang Diggity, and how do you name them too? Where do those come from?
Yeah, so it's kind of an organic process. There's not a whole lot of science to it. There's no marketing teams behind it. We're at Jekyll, we're really a family of employees there as well. So we pull together our most creative people that we have, and we order a pizza and open some beers and have a whiteboard up and just kind of go through the process. Sometimes when we're coming up with style, we pay attention to the market. What's the market asking for? Where's their voids? Where's our portfolio as it relates to that? Do we need to fill voids in our portfolio? And sometimes it's just off the cuff whims of, hey, this sounds really cool. Let's try it. And then on the naming side, we always try and make sure that there's a deeper story behind the name. And sometimes we do a good job getting that out, and sometimes we don't. But Hop Dang Diggity is not one of those. Hop Dang Diggity being our first beer that we made, it was just the name that we felt like really wrapped our heart with what we are as a brewery in the South.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorite names that you guys have is the Big Creek one, because my parents' house is right behind Big Creek. So that's really cool to see, something so unique to Alpharetta being out there like that.
Yeah.
And what would you say if somebody came into the brewery for the first time and wanted to try one? What would you say would be the good intro into Jekyll?
Yeah, so it really depends on the person, right? There's so many different types of beer drinkers out there. And I get this question every day in our tap room. What do you think we should have? If you come to our tap room, we have 28 different taps. So there's 28 different beers that we make for you to be able to choose from. And it's IPA heavy. We're an IPA heavy brewery, and the market seems to be IPA heavy. But, we feel like everybody's palate is constantly growing and expanding, and everyone's always in a different place in that process. So we just ask some probing questions as to, what would they typically drink? What types of flavors do they like or not like? And typically beer drinkers are pretty polarizing with their taste, right? They either like bitter and hoppy or they don't like bitter and hoppy. So it makes it pretty easy to steer them down that path. If they're very advanced, we get them into our special barrel-aged items, the small batch stuff that we have that's super high-end, because they'll certainly appreciate all the different levels of flavors that fall in there.
That's cool. So how did you choose this eclectic lineup? Were you going toward that thought of a lot of people prefer IPA, so we're going to have a lot of IPAs, or is it what you guys prefer?
So Josh likes to make American style and German style beers. So we started with that, and before coming to market, we came to market in August of 2013, and the craft scene really wasn't what it is right now. As a matter of fact, our wholesalers gave us a list of accounts that we could sell into. They have thousands of accounts, and they gave us a list of like 50. And they said, oh, these ones are craft friendly, so visit these accounts because they'll buy your products. Today, there are thousands of accounts will all buy craft beer now. So it's a little different then. But knowing that Josh was most comfortable and preferred German and American style beers, we started with an American IPA, Hop Dang Diggity. And we started with a German Kolsch style, which was Big Creek, right? And it lended a great IPA to the market where we felt there was an opportunity. And then it was also Big Creek as a Kolsch, which is a lighter style, crispier beer to let the beginners, join in with something that was more palatable to them.
Do you guys ever make a flavor or, I don't know what to call it. Is flavor the right word?
Sure.
So do you ever make a flavor and then you guys are all excited to try it and then you try and it's horrible?
That happens less frequently. Because usually when we love it, we've put our heart and our minds and everything into it. Mm-hmm. It usually turns out great. What does happen a lot is we make a great product and it doesn't fare well to the market, which is interesting. Leon Farmer is a good friend of mine, and he lives up in Gainesville, and or in Athens, I'm sorry. And he's been in beer his whole life. He's a few years older than I am, so I lean on him for a lot of advice. And he told me 5 years ago, as we were coming in, he says, the market's going to do weird things. You're going to have great products in the market that don't do well, and there's going to be other products in the market that aren't so great, but for some reason they do great. We try and make sure that all the products we bring to market obviously are great, but we certainly see that. There's a big, the market doesn't always follow what the craft brewer has in mind.
Yeah. And what's your favorite flavor?
Geez, it changes. It really changes with the weather, literally, right? So we're in holiday season now and cold season. So I'm leaning more on our darker beers. I love our bourbon barrel aged stouts that we have. I have an affinity for bourbon as well. So bringing those two things together works great for me. I like double IPAs this time of year. As the weather warms up, I'll start falling into citrusy IPAs and then into pale ales and then back into light lagers and cream ales.
That's cool. So we talked about the other breweries, local breweries earlier, but do you ever go to those breweries yourself?
I try to as often as I can because they're all friends of ours, right? So it's kind of like your extended family. How often do you get to go over to Aunt Tina's house? She lives close, you love her. And it's really that scenario, right? We're all working so hard. We're still all small businesses, so we're putting in long weeks. Definitely try and get out to the other guys as often as we can because they're friends of ours. More often than not, we end up visiting the other brewers because we're sharing supplies. Nick Tanner at Cherry Street needs some hops, so we'll get to see him when we provide him the hops that he needs that he wasn't able to find on the market. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool. We are now going to take a brief break to hear a word from our sponsor. Planning a wedding, reunion, or corporate meeting in Alpharetta? The Alpharetta Convention and Visitor Bureau offers a variety of complimentary event planning resources to help you during your event or meeting planning process. Their expert team will help you find event venues and meeting space around the area, secure group hotel room nights at Alpharetta's 25 hotels, and provide you with free visitor information to share with your Alpharetta hotel guests. Visit awesomealpharetta.com to learn more. Welcome back to Made in Alpharetta. We are joined today by Michael Lundmark of Jekyll Brewing. So, Michael, how has business been for you guys in the past 5 years? What about growth?
It's been amazing. It's a growth market, and our timing was perfect coming into the market with great products. So it's been really good. For the first 4 of the 5 years we've been open, it's really been keeping up with that growth. Coming into work every day expecting 100 hurdles to hurdle just so that you can have the right supply for what the market's asking for. So that you can scale and change and expand and grow. In the last year, it's plateaued for us, which has been nice, right? We got our cadence. We get to take a breath a little bit. And we have the right sized equipment now. Never in the previous 4 years did we have the right sized equipment. Everything was always too small, waiting for the next stuff to come in. So the market's been great, and business has been an amazing growth.
And how do you keep the business or the beers that you offer new and exciting for customers? Like, how do you make sure that they keep coming back to you guys?
Yeah, it's really about participating in the community as much as we can, right? Everything that we do, I think we're more of a community company than we are a beer company, right? Beer is just the conduit to cause people to come together and have great conversation. So we try and participate in community initiatives as often as we can. We love supporting the Lionheart School down the street. They do their tailgate program with the Georgia game on in the park up here. Anything we can do community driven, we definitely try and participate in as much as we can.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And I think it definitely shows, especially being the Alpharetta brewery, that you guys fully support Alpharetta.
Yeah.
And all the nonprofits or groups around here. So
yeah, anything we can. And that really falls back to how we started, right? I mean, we started with that initiative in mind. So it's been nice. And kids always are kids initiatives are always close to our heart because we're family men.
So what role did you play in the changing of Georgia's brewing and brewery laws over the years? Have you kept up with it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, absolutely.
So are you happy with the expansion of more breweries, especially locally? What were your thoughts on that whole process?
We, like I had mentioned before, we're really a family of brewers, all of the brewers together. So anything that we can do to help grow the micro segment of craft beer we want to be able to help and participate with. We haven't been as active as I'd like to be. As Jekyll Brewing, we haven't been as active as I'd like to be in the Brewers Guild. But we certainly support them and participate as often as we can.
And what is the Brewers Guild?
So to give it to you quickly, my wife was diagnosed with late-stage cancer 3 years ago, and she passed 3 months ago.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And it was a big part of who we were as a company. So for the last 3 years, I've kind of been in this taking care of her, taking care of the business, which has caused us to be less involved in a lot of the initiatives that I wanted us to be involved in. And the Brewers Guild is one of them. So what is the Georgia Brewers Guild was the question. And the Georgia Brewers Guild is kind of, it's our trade organization to bring in independent small breweries together as a team. And it really gives us the fighting power legislatively that we need to be able to make changes. So we have a director of our guild, and she spends most of her time hiring lobbyists and lobbying on our behalf to get legislation reformed and frankly just updated. So the legislation as it sat prior to September of last year, if you were a licensed brewery in Georgia, you were not allowed to sell your own beer on site to an individual. You could only sell your beer to your wholesaler. And then the wholesaler could go sell it to bars and restaurants, and then the bars and restaurants and stores could sell it to people. So what we had was hundreds and hundreds of people that wanted to come to the brewery and have beer and support their local brewer. We would have to give away the beer for free, basically. Come to the brewery and buy a tour, and then we'll give you free beer while you're here. And we were just kind of bending the law. There were only 2 states left in the country that had laws like that, and Georgia was one of those 2. So we were trying to update the laws to make sure that when you come to Jekyll, we can sell you beer on site. We can sell you beer in the glass. We can sell you beer to go. We can legally sell you food now if you'd like. Yeah, so the guild is kind of our lobbying arm and our initiative arm, where we can all, as a group of brewers in the state, vote on, hey, what's important for us this year? You know, is the legislative landscape accepting to these types of changes, and then drive the initiatives forward.
And so how did that change your business when those laws changed?
For the better, right? Selling beer direct is much more profitable than selling beer to a wholesaler who sells it to a bar who sells it to the person.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't mean a lot of consumers might misconceive that as, oh, we're swimming in cash right now, because that's not the case. Really what they're doing is they're allowing us to hire more people to upgrade the equipment that we need to upgrade. We're still small businesses. We're still struggling. So they're truly supporting their local brewer when they come to the brewery and buy beer.
It kind of goes back to that whole community aspect of it, community supporting their local brewery.
Right.
And yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so do you have regulars?
Yes. Yeah, we absolutely do. It's funny. I was working out the other day, which I wish I did more than once a week, but I had my music rolling and on random, and the Cheers theme song came on from the sitcom Cheers, and I was smiling while I was working out, because it's really what our tap room feels like with the regulars that come in, because we're set up for discussion. We're not set up for fast serve beer. We're set up to serve you a beer and talk to you about the beer, and talk to you about the other beers that are there, and talk to you about the brand and show you how the beer is made. So it gives that, it's like sitting around with a bunch of your friends, and then they are a bunch of our friends. So
yeah, it is. I went to Jekyll for the first time, I think a few months after you guys opened, and I didn't drink beer at all, but it was not intimidating, which I appreciated, because as somebody who doesn't know, I still don't know the difference between an IPA. I don't know what a hop is, like all of that stuff. It was very nice to sit there and go, this is what I do enjoy. What can you help me with?
Right.
And I definitely got that at Jekyll. So you guys really do well with that.
That's awesome. So we hope to do even better with that. We haven't announced this anywhere yet, so you guys will hear it first.
Ooh, breaking news.
We're opening a second location in Alpharetta City Center. And it'll be 2 stories. We'll have a rooftop patio, and we'll have a full-service restaurant as well. So you'll be able to come there. And the goal for us there was to put our great beers in front of more walkability, right? Have better walking traffic. When you come to our production facility, we're off the beaten path a little bit. It has to be where you're going for you to get there usually. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to make sure that to support the community of Alpharetta, that we were making the investments into the community and putting our brand dead center right in front of City Hall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping you guys would do that when they announced City Center and the big plans to expand downtown, but that's perfect for right there.
Yeah, so we're excited hopefully we'll have a June 1 opening.
Of 2019?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
And I really like that you're going to have the rooftop bar or whatever up
Me
there.
Me too.
I love rooftop bars, and I feel like Alpharetta is getting more of them, which I'm very excited about.
Right.
Makes it more of a kind of like big city feel in a smaller city.
Yeah.
So yeah. How does it feel when you go to travel somewhere and they have your beer? Because I know for me, I'm obviously not part of Jekyll, but I'm from here. So it's very cool to order a Jekyll beer when you're in Savannah or somewhere. So how do you feel when that happens?
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, every time I go out and I have one of our products, it feels like I did the first time. And I remember the first time better than anything. My family, my 3 kids and my wife, we'd go up to Taco Mac and get some wings and watch whatever game was on in a family environment, and waiting for our beer to be served there for the first time, was really a pinnacle moment in our company. And when we did it, I literally had a tear on my face when I got to see it on the menu for the first time. So today it's the same feeling. I'm able to hold the tears back, but I'm certainly smiling just as large. We've been really blessed to have great support from the community members in buying our brands and enjoying our products. And we're so thankful for that, really.
Yeah. Well, you make it easy to support, I know, because when we do go out of town and I see it, I'm always proud to say, this is where I'm from.
Yeah.
And this is my brewery. So that's very cool. But do you have any other future plans besides the second location?
We do. So we want to be a regional brewer. We want to distribute throughout the Deep South. We don't want to expand past the Deep South, though. So there's a couple of things we're doing right now. We're waiting for City Center to be up and running, prove our food concept, show that we can lure people in with great beer and then wow them with great food. And then we really want to get into the Florida market. So taking the concept in City Center, building it out in Florida, in North Florida, Jacksonville is where we're looking at right now, to support distribution throughout Florida would be step 2 for us. And then, as the markets are ready, then to grow our brand throughout the Deep South. It tells a great Deep South story, right? Yeah. It's not just a Georgia story, but we're all Georgia. So
yeah,
we start and we make sure we're solid here, and then we'll go out to the rest of the states.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Michael, that's about all my questions. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't. Just thanks to you guys for having me here today. Appin's certainly a community effort as well, and anything community driven we want to be a part of in a very positive way, and you guys always do a great job highlighting the positivity of our community.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go, the secret word to enter online is brew, BREW. And thank you, Michael, for joining me today. Where can people find out more about Jekyll Brewing?
Go to jekyllbrewing.com, find us on all the social media networks, and come visit us on Marconi Drive, exit 11 on 400.
Great. Thank you again to the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau. Don't forget to check them out at awesomealpharetta.com. Be sure to find Made in Alpharetta anywhere you listen to podcasts, including on iTunes. And you can keep up with me on Facebook by searching Kathleen Sturgeon or on Twitter at KS Sturgeon. Thanks again, Michael.
Sure.